Achilles triumphantly returned to the Greek camp, carrying with him the body of the Trojan warrior who inhabited the nightmares of nearly all the Achaean warriors, afraid that they would encounter Hector on the battlefield. Having fulfilled his promise, Achilles sent orders to initiate the funeral proceedings for Patroclus. Animal sacrifices were started, and Hector's body was ordered to be thrown to the ground and left at the mercy of dogs. During his sleep, Achilles was visited by Patroclus' spirit, who cried out for his friend to quickly perform the funeral rites, as he was being barred from entering the underworld. Achilles apologized to his fellow man and promised him that he would speed up the ritual. Patroclus reminded Achilles of his fate in war. He reminded him to make room next to his friend's grave so that he could be buried there. This way they could rest together, as they had been together since childhood. 12 Trojan prisoners were slain with sword blows at Achilles' command, because the Pelides' desire for revenge was immense. At last, Achilles gifted his locks as a tribute to his dead friend. Achilles had promised his father to give the locks to the river god of his homeland when he returned. He asked the god for forgiveness, as he was not meant to return and fulfill his offering. The great pyre was lit, and Achilles finally made good on his promise. Patroclus' spirit entered the realm of Hades and found rest in the Elysian fields. At night, the goddess Aphrodite spread an ointment of ambrosia on Hector's cup, so his corpse did not decompose, even when exposed to the elements. She also kept a watchful eye over the body to scare off the dogs that wanted to feast on the corpse. Achilles continued to be anxious. He tied Hector's body to his chariot again, dragging his tormentor's corpse around Patroclus' pyre several times. Achilles, in his tent, was visited by Thetis, his divine mother. Upon seeing her son's agitation, she advised him to return Hector's body to his people. The gods were unhappy with the way that Peleus' son had treated the body of such an honorable warrior. Achilles said that if that was the gods' will, he would allow the body to be returned. Iris, the divine messenger, went to Priam with the message that the king had to go to Achilles' tent to retrieve the body of his beloved son. He had no need to worry, for he would be under the gods' protection. The sons of Priam attempted to dissuade him from leaving. If he were captured by the Achaeans, Troy would suffer greatly. However, the king said that all his beloved sons were dead, and he had only the worst of them left. He would do everything to bring back the body of his best son. Priam took a donkey-drawn cart to the Greeks' camp, unsure of how he would be received. Along the way, the king encountered a man who said he would help him enter the Achaeans' camp. Priam knew that this stranger could only be an envoy from the gods. As they arrived at the Greek camp gates, the mysterious man commanded that the gates be opened, and was immediately attended to. Priam sensed that a god was at his side, and he was right. At Zeus's order, Hermes would escort the king to assure his safety. Achilles was taken aback when he saw a noble elder walking into his tent. In a sign of great humility, Priam clasped the knees of the man who had taken the lives of almost all of his sons. He told Achilles to remember Peleus, his old father, who was probably as old as Priam, and how much he hoped for his son's return, or at least his body. He said that he had lost more than 50 sons, but he could not do without the body of the only one who was truly worthy of defending the city. For this reason, he carried a generous ransom with him. Touched by the king's speech, Achilles brought him to his feet. He said that great would be Priam's suffering, so as to have the courage to stand face to face with the most terrible of Greeks, and that an iron heart would be beating in his chest. Achilles replied that he would return Hector's body to his father. He had promised his divine mother that he would do so. With great relief after such stress, the king finally relaxed. He ate and rested in Pelides' tent. He had not eaten or slept since his son's death. Before sunrise, Priam and his divine escort departed, carrying the body of the glorious hero Hector, before Agamemnon found out that the Trojan king was in his camp. Achilles apologized to Patroclus' spirit for returning Hector's body, saying that his part of the ransom would be laid at his tomb. Priam headed toward Troy with the promise of an 11-day ceasefire to ensure that all preparations were made for the funeral of the bravest Trojan. The Trojans rejoiced and wept, watching the king carrying the Trojan prince's body. Thanks to Aphrodite's care, Hector's corpse was perfectly preserved, and he appeared to be sleeping serenely. Andromache, the hero's wife, grabbed her dead husband's head and regretted that his departure had left behind a widow and a helpless son who would certainly be persecuted by the Greeks. They would not allow poor Astyanax to grow up and seek revenge. On the 11th day of the truce, Hector's enormous funeral pyre was lit in the center of Troy. All the city's inhabitants grieved the departure to Hades of the only man capable of defending Troy against the Greeks. One of the Trojan War's saddest chapters had ended. Even without its champion, the city would continue to fight until its last gasp.